Pizza delivery people, what is the weirdest delivery you ever did? I knew of a kid who was a drug addict and he had pizza delivered to his house. Once he heard the doorbell, he walked out his back door with a ski mask on and robbed the delivery driver in front of his own home. After that, he walked back around the home and opened the front door from inside, pretending to be surprised that the guy was robbed. The idiot ended up getting arrested, but it was the worst plan ever made by someone I knew. I was delivering a pizza, and after I knocked on the door I heard a faraway voice yell that they were coming, so I waited. After about a minute I hear the same voice a little closer yell, "Almost there, just wait." The voice gets closer until the door finally opens. I'm expecting to see someone at that level, however instead I'm greeted by a smiling person on the floor with no legs. I offered to put the pizza inside for them in the kitchen and they were pretty appreciative. Divorce lawyers, what crazy demands have you seen? It took them 2 hours to decide who would get the groceries in the fridge. The estimated value, $40. 2 hours of my time, opposing counsel, and mediator added up to about $1,000. It all came down to a large jar of peanut butter. Who keeps that in the fridge anyway? My uncle has always been a videographer and still works to this day as a news photographer. In the 1980s, he started a video editing business with his wife, which went extremely well since not everyone had a camera in their pocket back then. He worked for commercials and television shows, and the wife would organize clients and finances. Eventually, she would turn out to be a secret drug abuser and cheater, which led to divorce. She decided to sue him for alimony because she claimed to have built the business. Her demands were ridiculous, something like $75. My uncle's lawyer was worried she might have a shot. On court day, my uncle blindsides her and offers to give her 100% of the business instead. The judge and both lawyers are confused, but without him shooting and editing there is no business. The judge reasoned that his offer was fair and that she could take it or leave it. She and her lawyer were angry, and she ended up getting nothing. Medical personnel, what was the most uneducated statement a patient has said to you? A girl came to the pharmacy to return her birth control, and I asked her why. She said she got pregnant. I asked if she took it every day. She said, no, on the days I didn't feel like taking it, I made my boyfriend take it. I couldn't believe the stupidity. I made them answer a bunch of questions until they realized how stupid they were. My uncle is a dentist. He had this 20-year-old come in with a ruined molar that needed to be pulled out. He explains that she is going to lose her tooth and is expecting some sort of negative reaction. Her response? That's okay, I'll just wait for the other one to grow in. What other one? Like when I got these, it was because I lost the old ones. Those were baby teeth. These are adult teeth, you only get one set. So nothing will grow in the hole? Yes. Have you ever correctly had a gut feeling to dislike someone? I never trusted my ex-boyfriend's uncle. I just knew he was trouble and had issues with him visiting or my ex visiting him. He was arrested in Florida last year for producing and selling meth and hosting a prostitution ring out of his home. Later learned my ex partook in all those activities at his uncle's home too. Apparently my gut feeling was right about the uncle, but not about my ex. I was interviewing a guy for a job. Something doesn't feel right, but my interviewing partner really seemed to like him. We get to his portfolio of work and I see my side project that I worked on alone as one of his websites. I start asking him questions about it, like what challenges he had and how the client was. I let him go on and then I say, I have to level with you. This is my work. You are showing me my own work. Look at the source near the footer. It has my website in the comments. He went pale and I just sat there. After that I coached him a little on how not to suck and he left. We called the contract agency that sent him and let them know. Reddit, what is the most extreme ridiculous example of strict parenting that you've ever seen? I used to sleep over at a friend's house, and her father would sit with us to watch our movies and fast-forward PG-rated kissing scenes. We were 17. I was not allowed to have bad guy action figures, just good guys. I ended up drawing the bad guys on cardboard and having the worst battles ever. My best childhood friend wasn't allowed to pick out her own clothes. Even though she had practically no choice in the matter when it came to shopping, her crazy controlling father still insisted on laying out her outfit for the next day, or at the very least approving her clothing. This went on until she was about 17. She got herself a job, shopped in secret, and started sneaking around so she could dress like a skank. Her dad once found her sack of dirty clothes, as he called them, and attempted to ground her. She ran away, moved in with an abusive loser, and that's when we stopped hanging out. I hear she's a stripper now. Good job, Dad. Parent of killers, what your story? Most of my family is certain that my cousin murdered his best friend when they were about 12. He's always been a very strange kid, prone to fits of violence. He once tried to beat my other cousin with a canoe or for splashing him, and his dad has done time for child molestation. The two of them were alone by a river. My cousin came back and very calmly told his parents that his friend had drowned. The kid had evidence of blunt force trauma to the head, but my cousin said that he slipped and fell. The DA and medical experts attested that it was not a wound that would have been caused merely by a slip and fall, but my cousin had a great lawyer and got off. I don't hang around that side of the family anymore, for several reasons. My grandma told me that her aunt and uncle hated each other so much that when her uncle fell down and couldn't get up one winter and she just didn't care. Didn't give him any food or water or a blanket or anything, she just let him sit there for days in the cold. Someone finally came over to check on them and found her uncle almost dead on the floor. They asked the aunt why she didn't do anything to help, and she said something along the lines of, "That's not my problem, it's too damn cold to be getting up just for him." People who quit a job in the heat of the moment, what mess did you leave them to handle? I didn't get a bonus because they felt the overtime I did paid me more than the bonus they gave to everyone else. I didn't know what to say to that, so after a few hours I offered to get coffee for everyone. I left and never came back or contacted them again. I keep thinking that I should go back with coffee now I've been gone 10 years and just act normal. I always worked the close shift at a fast food joint. My managers loved to hand out citations for any little thing. The policy was 3 strikes and you're out. I had 2 strikes left and was told to clean up the entire front end and bathroom in an hour or risk getting a 3rd strike. I had to close the register, count the money, clean up the front end, restock everything, sweep and mop the floors, and clean the entire bathroom, including the toilets, for basically $8. I walked into the bathroom just to see what to expect. It looked like someone had finished projectile pooping all over the toilet and then decided to pee next to the sink. I knew I wouldn't be able to do everything in an hour and that I would get fired regardless, so I took my uniform off and walked home shirtless. Physicians, what's the worst injury you've seen at a routine checkup? Had a patient walk into the urgent care for hip x-rays. Her order said it was for hip pain, which is pretty routine. Turns out she had walked in on not 1, but 2 fractured hips. A guy comes in for an eye exam. I note one eye seems a bit redder than the other. He tells me it's been like that since a branch snapped back and hit him in the face 3 months earlier. I look under his upper lid and there is a piece of wood the size of a bean embedded in the underside of the eyelid. I can't believe it didn't bother him more. My father is a radiologist. He had a patient complaining about a headache after a flight. There were no obvious causes, so they do a scan. Turned out he had a broken neck that just didn't sever his spinal cord yet. He apparently survived without major complications. People who have visited America, what normal thing did you think was weird? We talk so loudly. I was in France for several months and it was like everyone was whispering. After 3 months my family visited and I was so embarrassed by how loudly they spoke. 2 weeks back in America and I was back to full volume. It's no wonder people think we're obnoxious. They drive everywhere. I was staying with a friend who lived about half a mile from a small town. I got up early one morning and walked into town to get some shopping. When I got back she couldn't understand how I'd made it there and back, because I don't drive. It took me like 10 minutes each way. I walked that far to my nearest bus stop for work. They serve the most amazingly massive portions of food I've ever seen. I ordered 1 meal in Oregon and the lady who owned the place looked me up and down and said, "You sure about that little guy?" I'm 6 feet tall and around 190 pounds. The meal came on 2 plates and I didn't eat again until the next day, but I finished every bite. What's the most legendary thing that happened in your school? My middle school was on a hill and the tallest building in the area. During Fleet Week, the Blue Angels flew what must have been 100 to 200 feet above us. It shattered like 30 windows on the top floor of the school. At the school where I used to teach, the students told me that years ago, someone swapped the science teacher's Bill Nye video with a hardcore porn tape. According to legend, the teacher didn't notice for quite a while, and the students watched several minutes of smut that day. I told my class that it was a dumb rumor, and I'm sure that never happened. When class was over, one of my students walked up and said, "Actually, it's true, my brother was the one who switched the tape." The seniors put hay everywhere inside the English building, so it basically looked like a farm. One of the admins wasn't letting people look at the mess. Also, when I was in 2nd grade, my school was supposed to have a fire drill, but for some reason the alarm wasn't working. The lunch ladies decided it would be a good idea to set something in the kitchen on fire to make the alarm go off. They burned a good majority of the lunch that was supposed to be served that day.